The great hall of the Galactic Council fell silent. Ambassador Hyun-woo stood at the speaking platform, his dark eyes scanning the assembled representatives from 47 different worlds. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others glowed with inner light. A few were so alien that they needed special suits just to breathe the same air as everyone else. But they all shared one thing now: complete shock at what the human had just said. "We are done with diplomacy," Hyun-woo repeated, his voice calm and clear. "Humanity withdraws from all treaties, all trade deals, and all agreements with the Galactic Council. Effective immediately." The silence broke like a dam bursting. Angry shouts filled the massive chamber. The Velkari representative, a creature that looked like a giant squid, slammed its tentacles against its desk. The sound echoed through the hall like thunder. The crystal beings called the Theks made a noise like breaking glass, their way of showing anger. Council Speaker Veltar raised one of his 4 arms for silence. He was tall and thin, with blue skin and large black eyes. His abe species, the Zenthari, had been the first to create the council 300 years ago. They had kept peace in the galaxy ever since. "Ambassador Hyun-woo," Veltar said, his voice shaking slightly, "surely you cannot be serious. Humanity has been a valued member of our council for 50 years. You have helped us solve many problems. Why would you abandon us now?" Hyun-woo looked at his aide, Min-ho, who sat in the human section. The younger man nodded once. They had planned for this moment for months. "We have watched your methods for 50 years, Hyun-woo said. "We have seen how you make decisions. We have seen how you treat the smaller, weaker species. You call it diplomacy, but we call it something else." "What do you call it?" demanded the Corvin representative. The Corvins looked like humans, but with gray skin and no hair, they were known for being direct and sometimes rude. "A lie," Hyun-woo said simply. The hall erupted again. This time, Veltar had to use the chamber's sound dampeners to restore order. When the noise finally died down, every eye in the room focused on the human ambassador. "Explain yourself," Veltar said. His voice was cold now. Hyun-woo pulled out a small device, a data crystal that glowed with soft blue light. "This contains humanity's formal declaration. We are withdrawing from the council. We will honor no more agreements made in these chambers." He placed the crystal on the platform's reader. Instantly, holographic text appeared in the air above him, written in dozens of different languages. The aliens began reading, and their expressions grew darker with each line. Min-ho watched from his seat as the representatives realized what they were seeing. Every trade agreement that gave humans access to alien technology, canceled. Every defense pact that promised human military support, void. Every treaty that let alien ships pass through human space, finished. The Zephyrian. Ambassador stood up suddenly. Her species looked like tall, elegant birds with silver feathers. "You cannot do this," she cried. "The Corvin Collective has been threatening our borders for months. Without human mediation, there will be war." "That is no longer our concern," Hyun-woo replied. The chamber fell silent again, but this time it was a different kind of quiet. It was the silence of fear. Veltar spoke carefully. "Ambassador, perhaps we can discuss this. If humanity has concerns about our methods, we can address them. The Council has always been willing to listen to new ideas." "No," Hyun-woo said. "We have made our decision. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact." He began walking toward the exit. Min-ho stood and followed him. At the door, Hyun-woo turned back one last time. "For 3 centuries, this council has maintained what you call peace. But peace built on fear and threats is not real peace. It is just war waiting to happen. Humanity chooses a different path. After the humans left, chaos filled the chamber. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded military action against Earth. Others worried about the economic impact of losing human trade. The Zephyrians and Corvins began arguing loudly about their border dispute. Veltar tried to maintain order, but for the first time in his long career, he felt truly helpless. The humans had been perfect members of the Council. They had shared their technology freely. They had helped solve conflicts between other species. They had never asked for special treatment or extra territory, and now they were gone. On the other side of the galaxy, Fleet Admiral Da Hai stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the stars through the massive windows. She was a small woman, with sharp eyes and gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had been expecting this moment for weeks. "Admiral," her communications officer said, "message from the Council. They're demanding an explanation within 30 standard days. They're also implementing immediate economic sanctions and trade embargoes." Dahai smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Send a reply. Tell them we acknowledge their message." "That's all, ma'am?" "That's all." The young officer looked confused, but he followed orders. Dahai turned back to the stars and thought about the plan that was already in motion. The Council thought they understood humanity. They thought humans were just another species that could be bullied or bought or threatened into compliance. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In her quarters later that night, Dahai reviewed the latest reports from human colonies across the galaxy. Every world was ready. Every fleet was in position. Every defense system had been activated. For 50 years, humanity had played by the Council's rules. They had been patient. They had been diplomatic. They had tried to work within the system to make things better. But some systems were too broken to fix. Sometimes the only choice was to walk away and build something new. Dahai opened a secure channel to Earth's government. "Phase 1 is complete," she reported. "The Council has been notified, beginning Phase 2 on your command." The reply came back immediately. "Phase 2 authorized. Show them what we're really capable of." Dahai closed the channel and looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, the Council was panicking. They were trying to figure out how to force humanity back into line. They would learn soon enough that humanity had never been in line, at all. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to reveal their true strength. 3 weeks had passed since the humans walked out of the Council chambers. 3 weeks of growing chaos across the galaxy. Council military advisor Quinn Tale studied the reports flowing across his desk with increasing alarm. The Thex advisor was made of living crystal, and when he was worried, his body flickered between different colors. Right now, he was flashing red and orange like a warning beacon. "The situation is deteriorating rapidly," he told the emergency session of Council leaders. "Without human peacekeepers, conflicts are breaking out everywhere." Veltar rubbed his temples with 2 of his 4 hands. As Council speaker, he had not slept properly in weeks. "Give me the details." "The Helix Nebula trade route has been attacked 6 times this week," Quintal reported. "Pirates are getting bolder. They know the human patrol ships are gone. The merchant vessels are defenseless." "What about our own patrol ships?" asked the Corvin representative. "Spread too thin. The humans. We're protecting 12 major shipping lanes. We can barely cover 3. Veltar felt a cold weight in his stomach. For 50 years, human ships had quietly protected the galaxy's trade routes. They had been so reliable that other species had stopped maintaining their own patrol fleets. Now that protection was gone. "What else?" Veltar asked, though he dreaded the answer. "The Zephyrian-Corvin border is heating up," Quintal continued. "Small fights are happening every day now. Both sides are moving more ships into the area. Without human mediators, I predict full war within days." The Zephyrian ambassador, a bird-like creature named Scythara, ruffled her silver feathers angrily. "The Corvins are testing our defenses. They think without human support we are weak. We are not the aggressors here, growled the Corvan representative. Your ships have been crossing into our space. Enough, Veltar shouted. This is exactly what I mean. Without the humans to mediate, you cannot even have a conversation without fighting. But the real problem was bigger than trade routes or border disputes. The real problem was fear. For the first time in 3 centuries, no one knew what humanity was planning. Captain Taemin of the exploration vessel New Soul had been asking himself the same question as he approached the edge of human space. His ship was small and fast, designed for long-range scouting missions. He had orders from Earth Command that were simple but mysterious. Patrol the border and wait. He did not have to wait long. A Council enforcement fleet appeared on his sensors. 23 ships from 5 different species. They were heading straight for the human colony world of New Busan. Timon opened a communication channel. Council fleet, this is Captain Taemin of the New Soul. You are approaching human territory. State your business. The reply came from a Zenthari commander. We are on a diplomatic mission to mediate the Zephyrian-Corvan conflict. We require passage through your space to reach the disputed zone. Passage denied, Taemin said calmly. Turn back immediately. There was a pause. Captain, we have legal rights under Treaty 347B to cross human space for peacekeeping missions. That treaty no longer exists. We withdrew from all agreements, remember? Turn back or face the consequences. Another pause, longer this time. Captain, are you threatening Council ships? I am stating a fact. This is human space. You are not welcome here. Leave now. Taemin watched his sensors as the alien fleet slowed down. He could imagine the argument happening on their command bridge. Some would want to turn back. Others would want to push forward, testing human resolve. The test did not last long. We are proceeding with our mission, the Zenthari commander announced. Stand aside. Taemin smiled grimly. I warned you. The Council fleet moved forward and immediately began triggering automated defense systems that had been invisible moments before. Massive weapon platforms materialized out of empty space, their stealth shields dropping as they powered up. The alien ships stopped as if they had hit a wall. What are those? The Zenthari commander demanded. Automated defense platforms, Taemin replied. We installed them throughout our border systems. They are programmed to disable any unauthorized ships. You cannot be serious. There are dozens of them, hundreds actually, and this is just one system. Turn back now, and they will not fire. For a moment, Taemin thought the aliens would be smart and retreat. Then the Council fleet opened fire on the nearest platform. The platform absorbed the attack without even flickering. Then it returned fire. The alien weapons did nothing. The human weapons shut down the lead ship's engines instantly. The vessel went dark and began drifting helplessly. Next ship that fires will lose life support as well, Taemin announced calmly. The Council fleet turned around and fled. Back on the Council homeworld, the report of the border incident caused panic. Quintal's crystal body was now flashing bright, red constantly. They have weapon platforms throughout their space, he reported to the emergency session. Advanced stealth technology. Our sensors could not detect them until they activated. How many platforms? Veltar asked. Unknown. The captain claimed hundreds in just one system. And our weapons? Completely ineffective against their shields. Veltar felt the cold weight in his stomach grow heavier. What about their weapons? Surgical precision. They disabled our ship without causing any permanent damage. They could have destroyed it. Easily. The implications were terrifying. If humans could disable ships without destroying them, they could capture entire fleets. They could leave enemies helpless but alive, a fate worse than destruction for proud warrior species. Meanwhile, on the remote research station, Kepler-7, Dr. Su Jin was having the best day of her career. The data streaming across her screens confirmed what her team had suspected for months. We did it, she whispered. Then louder. We actually did it! Her research partner, Dr. Kwan, looked up from his own workstation. The terraforming accelerator? Better than that. The energy conversion. Process works. We can turn any dead planet into a garden world in less than 20 years. And the power requirements are minimal. Dr. Kwan stood up so fast he knocked over his chair. Are you certain? Triple-checked. The simulations all confirm it. We can terraform dead worlds, provide unlimited clean energy, and extend the lifespan of any carbon-based species by at least 300%. They stared at each other in amazement. This technology could change everything. Every species in the galaxy would want it. Wars had been fought over less important discoveries. Should we report to Earth Command? Dr. Kwan asked. Already done. They want us to prepare a full presentation. Apparently they have plans for this. Back in the council chambers, Veltar was reading the latest intelligence reports. Human fleets had vanished from their usual positions. Human colonies had activated planetary shields for the first time in 50 years. Human trade ships were avoiding all council space. Most disturbing of all, several minor species had begun asking questions about humanity's withdrawal. The Polari, a small reptilian species that had always been bullied by larger neighbors, had sent a secret message to Earth. So had the Unari and the Sectar. They are turning other species against us, the Corvan representative complained. Or other species are questioning our methods, Veltar replied quietly. What do you mean? I mean, maybe the humans were right. Maybe our diplomacy really is just threats and intimidation dressed up in fancy words. The chamber fell silent. No one wanted to consider that possibility. But deep down, Veltar knew it was true. The council maintained peace through fear. The strongest species made the rules, and everyone else had to follow them or face consequences. They called it diplomacy, but it was really just organized bullying. And now the humans had called them on it. What are our options? He asked Quintal. Limited. We can try economic pressure, but humans are largely self-sufficient. We can attempt diplomatic outreach, but they have made it clear they will not negotiate. Or what? We can use military force to bring them back into compliance. Veltar closed his eyes. 3 centuries of peace, and it might all end because one species had the courage to say no. How long do we have before the Zephyrian-Corvan situation explodes? Days, maybe hours, and without human mediation? Full-scale war is inevitable. Veltar made his decision. Call an emergency military session. If the humans will not return to diplomacy willingly, we will force them to return. He just hoped they were strong enough to force humanity to do anything. The largest military fleet in galactic history hung in space at the edge of the Sol system. 7 species had contributed ships to the Armada, over 2,000 vessels in total. Their mission was simple: force humanity to return to the negotiating table. Admiral Kreshtar of the Zenthari Navy commanded the fleet from his flagship, a massive dreadnought called the Harmony's Edge. The name was meant to be ironic. There would be no harmony until the humans learned their place. All ships report ready, his communications officer announced. Scan the system, Kreshtar ordered. I want to know exactly what we're facing. The results came back quickly. Sir, we're detecting minimal human presence, a few orbital stations around Earth and Mars, maybe 30 ships total. Kreshtar smiled. The humans had been bluffing. Their withdrawal from the council was just dramatic posturing. Now they would learn what happened to species that defied the established order. Open a channel to Earth, he commanded. The view screen flickered to life, showing the face of a small human woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She wore the uniform of a human admiral, but Kreshtar had never seen her before. I am Admiral Kreshtar of the Galactic Council Military Command, he announced. You will return your ships to council patrols and your ambassadors to council chambers immediately. The human woman studied him for a moment. I am Fleet Admiral Dahai of the Earth Defense Force. The answer is no. You are in no position to refuse. We have brought 2,000 ships to ensure compliance. I can see that. Quite impressive. Must have taken months to organize. Kreshatar frowned. The human seemed remarkably calm for someone facing overwhelming force. This is your final warning. Comply or face the consequences. Admiral Kreshatar, Dahai said quietly. You came here seeking diplomacy through force. This is exactly why we withdrew from your council in the first place. Explain. For 50 years we watched your methods. We saw how you handle disagreements. The strong threaten the weak until they submit. You call it diplomacy, but it's really just organized bullying. Your philosophical objections are irrelevant. Will you comply? No. Kreshatar's patience snapped. Then you will be compelled. All ships advance on Earth's orbital installations. Disable their defenses. The Council fleet moved forward as one massive wave. Then something impossible happened. Space around them filled with ships. Not just a few ships. Hundreds of ships. They appeared out of nowhere as if they had been invisible moments before. Sleek, deadly vessels that made the Council fleet look primitive and clumsy. Admiral Dahai's face reappeared on the view screen. Behind her, Kreshatar could see the bridge of her flagship, a vessel larger than anything in his fleet. Admiral, she said calmly, meet the real Earth Defense Force. Kreshatar stared at his tactical display in shock. The numbers were impossible. 300 human ships surrounded his fleet. His sensors showed weapons and shields beyond anything the Council possessed. This is impossible, he whispered. Where did they come from? We've been here the entire time, Dahai replied. You just couldn't see us. Stealth technology has its advantages. Commander Jae-sung watched the alien fleets panic from the bridge of his stealth frigate, the Busan. His ship was small compared to the Admiral's flagship, but it carried enough firepower to destroy a dozen Council vessels. They're running active scans on us, his sensor officer reported. They still can't get a solid lock. Let them try, Jae-sung said. It's time they learned what humanity has really been doing for the past 50 years. He opened a channel to the entire Council fleet. Council commanders, this is Commander Jae-sung of the Earth Defense Force. I want to tell you a story. You think this is a game? Admiral Kreshatar demanded. No. I think this is education. For 5 decades, your species have wondered why humans were so eager to help with your problems. Why we volunteered for dangerous patrol missions. Why we always seemed to be in the right place at the right time to prevent conflicts. Jae-sung paused, letting that sink in. The truth is, we were studying you, learning your technologies, understanding your weaknesses, and most importantly, watching how you treated the smaller, weaker species when you thought no one was looking. On the bridge of the Harmony's edge, Admiral Kreshatar was reviewing the tactical situation with growing horror. His fleet's weapons were designed to fight other Council ships. They would be useless against human shields that could apparently absorb any amount of damage. Sir, his weapons officer reported, preliminary scans suggest their defensive capabilities are at least 10 times stronger than anything we've seen. What about their weapons? Unknown, sir. They haven't fired yet. They haven't needed to, Kreshatar muttered. The psychological impact of the human fleet's sudden appearance had already achieved more than weapons could. Admiral Dahai's voice filled the communications channels again. We know what you're thinking, Admiral. You're wondering if you can win this fight. Let me save you some time. You cannot. You're bluffing. Am I? Target one of my escort vessels with your most powerful weapon. See what happens. Kreshatar hesitated. This had to be a trap, but he needed to know what he was facing. Fire a single shot at the human frigate designated Contact 7, he ordered. The Harmony's Edge fired its main plasma cannon, a weapon capable of destroying most ships in a single hit. The beam struck the human frigate's shields and simply disappeared, absorbed without even causing the target to slow down. Our turn, Commander Jae-sung announced. The human frigate fired a single, precise shot. It struck the Harmony's edge and did nothing. For a moment, Kreshatar thought the human weapon had failed. Then his engineering officer began shouting reports. "Sir, our main engines are offline. Navigation systems are down. Weapons are non-functional." "What about life support?" "Still operational, sir." Kreshatar stared at his dead control panels in amazement. The humans had disabled his flagship without killing anyone. They had shut down specific systems while leaving others completely untouched. "How?" he whispered. "Selective electromagnetic pulse weaponry," Dahai explained helpfully. "We can disable any system on your ships without harming the crew. Very useful for ending fights without starting wars." Around the Sol system, other Council ships were experiencing similar shutdowns. The humans were demonstrating their weapons. "On volunteer targets, always disabling, never destroying. This is impossible," Admiral Kreshatar said. "No species has this level of technological superiority." "Most species don't spend 50 years pretending to be weaker than they really are," Dahai replied. "Most species don't use that time to study their neighbors and develop countermeasures to every known weapon system." Commander Jae-sung added, "We've been protecting dozens of minor species from Council predation for decades, species you claimed joined voluntarily, but who were really being threatened into compliance. The Polari, the Unari, the Sectar," Dahye continued. "We've been their secret guardians, preventing Council ships from visiting them when they showed signs of independence." Admiral Kreshatar felt the foundations of his worldview cracking. "You've been interfering with internal Council affairs?" "We've been protecting the weak from the strong. Isn't that what diplomacy should be about?" The truth hit Kreshatar like a physical blow. For 50 years, humanity had been quietly undoing the Council's work. They had been preventing the bullying and intimidation that kept the galactic order stable. "Why?" he asked. "Why reveal yourselves now?" "Because we're tired of pretending," Dahai said simply. "We're tired of watching your diplomacy in action. We're tired of being part of a system that maintains peace through fear." She leaned forward on her command chair. "We're offering the galaxy a choice, Admiral. Continue with the old ways. The strong dominating the weak. Peace through intimidation. Justice for whoever has the biggest fleet. Or try something new." "What kind of something new?" "Real diplomacy. Actual equality. Cooperation based on mutual benefit instead of mutual fear." Admiral Kreshatar looked around his disabled bridge. Half his fleet was drifting powerless. The other half was too shocked to move. The humans could have destroyed them, all in minutes. But instead they had chosen to demonstrate mercy. "And if we refuse? Then you'll leave our space and return to your Council chambers. You'll tell them what you saw here. And you'll explain that humanity is no longer available to clean up the messes created by your version of diplomacy." Dahai's expression hardened. "But Admiral, if you try to force us back into your broken system, you'll discover that our mercy has limits." The Council fleet limped away from Sol system hours later, their disabled ships towed by those still functioning. They carried with them news that would shake the galaxy to its foundations. Humanity had been holding back. For 50 years, they had possessed the power to dominate everyone, but had chosen instead to serve and protect. Now they were done serving a corrupt system. The question was, what would they do next? The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within days, every species knew the truth. Humanity possessed military technology beyond anything the Council had ever seen, and they were no longer afraid to use it. The carefully balanced system that had prevented major wars for 3 centuries collapsed overnight. On the Corvan homeworld, General Vexhan studied the battle reports from Sol system with growing excitement. The humans had embarrassed the Council's combined fleet without firing a single lethal shot. If the Great Galactic Council could be humiliated so easily, what did that say about their power? "Begin the invasion," he ordered his fleet commanders. "Full assault on Zephyrian space. The humans will not intervene this time. Sir, are you certain? The humans have served as mediators for... The humans have withdrawn from galactic affairs, Vexhan interrupted. They made that very clear. The Zephyrians are on their own now. Within hours, the largest Corvan battle fleet in a century was crossing into Zephyrian territory. Without human peacekeepers to maintain the border, both sides had been building up their forces for weeks. Now the dam burst. The Zephyrian colonies of Nestara and Silverwing came under immediate attack. Their bird-like inhabitants sent desperate messages to the Council, begging for help. But the Council's enforcement fleet was still limping home from their humiliation at Earth. On the Council homeworld, Emergency Chancellor Nay Young of the Human Diplomatic Corps arrived unannounced at the chambers. She was one of the few humans still willing to speak with Council representatives, and her presence caused a stir among the alien diplomats. "I come bearing a message from Earth," she announced to the hastily assembled emergency session. Council Speaker Veltar looked exhausted. The past week had aged him years. "We are listening, Chancellor." Nayung activated a holographic projector. The image showed a beautiful planet, green oceans, white clouds, continents covered in forests and cities. "This is Kepler 442b, she said. 6 months ago, it was a dead rock. No atmosphere, no water, no life. Today, it looks like this." The assembled representatives stared in amazement. Terraforming a dead world usually took thousands of years and enormous resources. The fastest anyone had ever managed was 800 years. "How?" whispered the Thex representative. "Human technology," Na Young replied simply. "We have developed processes that can terraform dead worlds in decades instead of millennia. We can provide unlimited clean energy to any planet. We can extend the natural lifespan of any carbon-based species by centuries." The chamber fell silent. This was technology that could reshape civilization itself. "But," Nayung continued, "we will only share this technology with species that prove they can abandon the politics of domination." "What does that mean?" Veltar asked, though he suspected he already knew. "It means no more forced treaties. No, more threatening smaller species into compliance. No more using military might to settle disputes. Real diplomacy, based on equality and mutual respect." The Corvan representative laughed harshly. "Impossible. The strong will always rule the weak. It is the natural order, is it?" Nayung asked. "Because from where I stand, humanity seems to be the strongest species in the galaxy right now. Yet we are not demanding submission from anyone. We are offering cooperation." She gestured to the holographic planet. "This is our proposal. Any species that genuinely commits to peaceful coexistence can join what we are calling the Human Alliance. In return, they gain access to our technology and our protection." "Protection from what?" the Zenthari representative demanded. "From species that still believe might makes right." The implications were staggering. Humanity was offering to defend any species that joined their alliance. Given what the Council fleet had experienced at Sol System, that protection would be absolute. More importantly, they were offering technology that could solve resource shortages, territorial disputes, and population pressures, the root causes of most galactic conflicts. Dr. Su Jin watched the Council session through encrypted channels from her research station. Her breakthrough discoveries were now the centerpiece of humanity's new diplomatic strategy. It felt strange to see her life's work used as a bargaining chip, but she understood the necessity. "Are they taking the bait?" Dr. Kwan asked. "Some of them. Look at the minor species representatives. They're very interested." On the view screen, she could see the Polari ambassador whispering urgently with his aides. The Unari representative was taking detailed notes. Several other minor species were showing clear signs of excitement. The major powers, however, looked skeptical or angry. They see the threat, Dr. Kwan observed. If the small species join humanity's alliance, they'll lose their ability to intimidate them. Good, Sujin said. That's exactly the point. Back in the council chambers, the session was growing heated. The Corvan representative was on his feet, shouting about human interference in galactic affairs. The Zenthari delegation was demanding guarantees that human technology would not be used to upset existing power structures. Na-Young listened patiently, then raised her hand for silence. "You still don't understand," she said quietly. "This is not a negotiation. We are not asking for your permission. We are informing you of our intentions. You cannot simply ignore the established order," the Corvan representative protested. "We already have. The established order failed. It maintained peace through fear instead of justice. It allowed the strong to exploit the weak while calling it diplomacy. We refuse to be part of that system any longer." Council Speaker Veltar leaned forward in his chair. "And if we oppose you? Then you will discover what the Corvan fleet is learning right now." All eyes turned to the main display screen as Na-Young activated a live feed from the war zone. The image showed a human medical ship, clearly marked with healing symbols, moving between damaged Corvan and Zephyrian vessels. "Our ship, the Healing Hand, is currently in the battle zone," Na-Young explained. "They are rescuing wounded from both sides, providing medical aid to anyone who needs it." The alien representatives watched in amazement as human shuttles evacuated. Casualties from burning warships, making no distinction between Corvan or Zephyrian wounded. "But I thought humanity withdrew from galactic affairs," Veltar said, confused. "We withdrew from your corrupt diplomatic system," Na-Young corrected. "We did not withdraw from our commitment to protecting innocent lives." Another image appeared. Captain Taemin's ship, the New Soul, escorting a convoy of civilian transports away from the battle zone. "Captain Taemin and his crew are evacuating non-combatants from threatened colonies," Na-Young continued. "Both Zephyrian and Corvan civilians. Again, we make no distinction." "This is interference," the Corvan representative shouted. "This is what real diplomacy looks like," Na-Young replied calmly. "Instead of choosing sides in your war, we choose to protect the innocent victims of your war." The demonstration continued. Human engineering ships were shown repairing civilian infrastructure damaged by the fighting. Human supply vessels delivered food and medicine to refugee camps. Human defense platforms protected hospital ships from attack. "You see," Na-Young said, "we are not abandoning our responsibilities to the galaxy. We are abandoning our support for a council that has forgotten what those responsibilities are." One by one, species began to consider humanity's offer. The Polari were the first to make contact, sending a secret message to Earth requesting information about joining the human alliance. The Yunari followed within hours, then the Sectar, then a dozen other minor species that had spent centuries being bullied by their larger neighbors. But the major powers were not ready to give up their dominance without a fight. "We will not allow this disruption of galactic order," the Zenthari representative declared. "If humanity will not return to proper diplomatic channels, we will force compliance." "You tried that already," Na-Young reminded him. "How did that work out for you?" Veltar made one last attempt at traditional diplomacy. "Surely we can reach some accommodation. The Council has maintained peace for 3 centuries. There must be a way to preserve what works while addressing your concerns." Na-Young shook her head sadly. "Speaker Veltar, with respect, you cannot reform a system built on intimidation and fear. You can only replace it." She began walking toward the exit, just as Ambassador Hyunwoo had done weeks earlier. "The choice is simple," she said at the doorway. "Join us in building something better, or cling to the old ways and watch the galaxy tear itself apart." "And if we choose to fight?" Na-Young paused and looked back one final time. "Then you will lose." After she left, the council chamber erupted in angry debate. Some species wanted immediate military action against humanity. Others argued for negotiation. A few quietly began considering whether the humans might be right. But across the galaxy, the choice was already being made. Species after species began reaching out to Earth, asking about the human alliance. The old order was crumbling, and everyone knew it. The only question was what would rise to take its place. 6 months after humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, the galaxy was split into 3 parts. The old council desperately tried to maintain its authority over 19 remaining species. The new human alliance had grown to include 23 species, mostly smaller ones, that had been bullied for centuries. 5 species remained neutral, waiting to see which side would win. The war that everyone had predicted never came. Instead, something far more powerful happened. Humanity began to heal the galaxy's wounds. Admiral Day High stood on the observation deck of Earth's moon, watching the massive construction project that had been hidden from alien eyes for months. The structure was enormous, larger than many space stations, but clearly not designed for war. The New Haven habitat is ready for its first colonists, reported engineer Min Su. Full life support for 2 million beings, artificial gravity, climate control systems for 15 different atmospheric requirements. And the terraforming equipment? Installed and tested. We can transform any dead world into a garden planet within 20 years. The entire system is powered by clean fusion technology. Day High smiled as she watched the massive habitat prepare for its maiden voyage. This was what humanity had chosen to build while the Council prepared for war, not weapons, but homes. Send the broadcast, she ordered. Across the galaxy, every species received the same message. Admiral Day High appeared. On their screens, standing before the New Haven habitat with Earth's blue marble visible in the background. People of the galaxy, she began. While others prepared for war, we chose to build for peace. Behind me is the first of many gifts we offer to any species ready to abandon the politics of fear and domination. The camera panned across the habitat's gleaming hull, showing gardens visible through transparent sections, cities designed for multiple species, and the gentle glow of advanced technology. This habitat can house 2 million beings in comfort and safety. It includes terraforming systems that can transform dead worlds into thriving colonies. It is powered by clean energy that will last for thousands of years, and we are giving it away freely to any species that commits to genuine peace. The impact was immediate. Species that had been considering the human alliance began making formal requests to join. Even some members of the old council started asking quiet questions about humanity's requirements. Captain Tae Min watched the broadcast from his ship's bridge as he patrolled the former war zone between Zephyrian and Corvin space. The fighting had ended weeks ago, not because of treaties or threats, but because both sides had gotten tired of watching humans rescue their wounded. "Captain," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a distress call from a Corvin transport. Their engines have failed, and they're drifting toward the system's star." "Set course to intercept," Tae Min ordered. "Deploy rescue shuttles." It was the same response his crew had been giving for months. When Corvin ships were in trouble, humans helped them. When Zephyrian colonies needed supplies, humans delivered them. When refugee camps lacked medicine, humans provided it. They helped everyone equally without asking for anything in return. The Corvin transport crew was suspicious when human shuttles docked with their ship. They had been taught to fear and hate humanity's growing influence. But when human engineers worked for 12 hours straight to repair their engines, and human medics treated their injured crew members, their attitudes began to change. "Why do you help us?" asked the Corvin captain as his ship's engines came back online. "We are not part of your alliance. Our government opposes everything you stand for." "Because you needed help," Tae Min replied simply. "That's what people do for each other." The Corvin captain stared at him for a long moment. Your species is very strange. Maybe. But we sleep well at night. Meanwhile, Commander Jae-sung was leading a very different kind of mission. His stealth frigate Busan had received reports of Council forces trying to intimidate minor species into remaining loyal to the old system. The target was the Polari homeworld, where a Zenthari diplomatic fleet had arrived to remind the lizard-like Polari of their obligations to the Council. "What's the situation?" Jae-sung asked his intelligence officer. "Standard intimidation tactics, sir. The Zenthari have deployed their fleet in orbit around the Polari homeworld. They're demanding increased tribute payments and restrictions on contact with humanity." "How many ships?" 12 heavy cruisers, sir. More than enough to blockade the planet. Jae-sung smiled grimly. "Not for long. Decloak and open a channel to the Zenthari fleet." The Busan materialized out of empty space directly between the Zenthari ships and the planet below. The alien fleet immediately went to battle stations, but Jae-sung ignored their aggressive posturing. "Zenthari fleet, this is Commander Jae-sung of the Earth Defense Force. You are engaging in hostile activities against a member of the Human Alliance. Withdraw immediately." "The Polari are not members of your alliance," the Zenthari commander protested. "They belong to the Council." "Check your records," Jae-sung replied calmly. "The Polari formally joined the Human Alliance 3 days ago. They are under our protection now." There was a long pause as the Zenthari commander verified this information. When he came back on the channel, his voice was shaking with rage. "This is illegal. The Polari signed treaties with the Council centuries ago. Treaties signed under duress are not valid. The Polari are free to choose their own associations. We will not allow this interference." "You will allow it," Jae-sung said quietly, "or you will be forced to allow it. Your choice." The Zenthari fleet outnumbered Jae-sung's single ship 12-1. But everyone in the galaxy had heard about what happened to the Council's enforcement. Fleet at Sol system. Zenthari weapons were useless against human shields. Human weapons could disable entire fleets without firing a fatal shot. The Zenthari fleet withdrew without firing a shot. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as humanity's protection extended to more and more species. The old Council found itself unable to intimidate anyone who had joined the Human Alliance. But the real transformation was happening in the Council chambers themselves. Council Speaker Veltar sat alone in his office, reading reports from across the galaxy. 19 species remained loyal to the Council, but their loyalty was becoming strained. Trade was disrupted. Military patrols were ineffective. Minor conflicts were escalating without human mediation. Most damaging of all, the contrast between the two systems was becoming impossible to ignore. The Human Alliance was building habitats, terraforming dead worlds and sharing advanced technology freely. They were rescuing disaster victims, protecting the weak, and healing the wounds of war. The Council was threatening, demanding, and trying to maintain power through fear. A soft chime announced a visitor. Veltar looked up to see a figure he had not expected. Former Council Speaker Veltar of the Zenthari, the same species but from a different colony world. "Cousin," the visitor said quietly, "I bring word from our homeworld." "What word?" "The Colonial Assembly has voted. We are withdrawing from the Council and requesting membership in the Human Alliance." Veltar closed his eyes. His own species was abandoning the system they had helped create 3 centuries ago. "Why?" "Because we have children, cousin, and we want them to grow up in the galaxy the humans are building, not the one we have maintained through fear. One by one, other species made the same choice. The Thex crystalline beings joined the Alliance after humans shared technology that allowed them to reproduce more efficiently. The Helix traders joined after humanity opened new shipping routes protected by human patrol fleets. Even some Corvins began defecting when they saw human medical ships treating their wounded soldiers with the same care given to enemy casualties. The final moment came when Admiral Cresciatar himself requested a meeting with Admiral Dahai. "I want to understand," he said as they met in neutral space. "Your species has the power to dominate the entire galaxy. Why don't you use it?" Dahai looked out at the stars through the meeting room's windows. "Because power without compassion is not strength. It's just fear wearing a crown. But you could force every species to obey you, make them all follow human rules." "We could. But then we would be no different from the Council. We would be using fear to maintain order instead of building genuine cooperation." Kreshtar was quiet for a long time. Finally, he asked, "What do you want from us?" "Nothing you're not willing to give freely. We want partners, not subjects. We want cooperation, not submission. And if we choose to remain hostile..." Dahai turned to face him directly. "Then you will remain free to make that choice. We will defend our allies, but we will not attack you for disagreeing with us. The difference between us and the old council is that we respect your right to be wrong." 3 days later, Admiral Cresciatar announced that the Zenthari Republic was dissolving its membership in the Galactic Council and applying to join the Human Alliance. The old council officially ended when only 3 species remained as members, and they spent more time arguing with each other than governing anything. The new Galactic Commonwealth held its first assembly on the completed New Haven habitat. Representatives from 41 species gathered in chambers designed for equality rather than hierarchy.